He had rehearsed the moment 100 times during the drive, but nothing prepared Owen Mercer for the silence that greeted him when the front door slowly opened. The cardboard box in his trembling hands carried the last pieces of his best friend's life: a worn leather jacket, a faded baseball glove, family photographs, and an old coffee mug with a chipped handle. He had promised himself this would be the final goodbye. Instead, one unexpected glance changed everything he believed about grief, hope, and the mysterious ways life brings broken people together. Some doors close forever, but sometimes the one you fear opening the most becomes the beginning of a completely different future. Before we continue this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise if you believe that even the darkest days can lead to beautiful new beginnings. Owen was only 36, but the weight on his shoulders made him look much older. 3 years earlier, his wife had lost her battle with a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his 8-year-old son, Mason, alone. Every morning became a race against time, preparing breakfast before work, helping with homework after exhausting shifts, and pretending everything was fine whenever Mason asked questions that no father ever wanted to answer. The little boy tried to be brave, but Owen often heard quiet crying behind the bedroom door long after bedtime. They had survived because they had each other, and because of Owen's closest friend, Victor Hale, who had become the family they desperately needed. Victor never allowed Owen to drown in loneliness. Weekend barbecues, fishing trips, birthday surprises, and simple late-night conversations helped keep hope alive. Mason adored Victor, who always remembered every baseball game and every school achievement. But life can be painfully unfair. One ordinary afternoon, Victor suffered a fatal accident on his way home from work. The phone call shattered Owen's world once again. Losing his wife had almost broken him, and losing the brother he had chosen left another empty space that seemed impossible to fill. For weeks, the cardboard box sat untouched inside Owen's garage. Every object carried memories too heavy to face. The leather jacket still carried Victor's familiar scent. The baseball glove reminded Owen of afternoons spent teaching Mason how to catch fly balls while Victor laughed every time they both missed. Returning those belongings felt like accepting a reality he refused to believe. When he finally gathered enough courage, the warm daylight stretched across quiet suburban streets as he parked outside Victor's childhood home. He expected to meet Victor's elderly parents, but they had already moved closer to relatives after the tragedy. Instead, someone else answered. Standing before him was Nora Hale, Victor's younger sister. Owen vaguely remembered seeing her years before at family gatherings, but she had moved across the country for work and rarely returned home. Now she stood quietly in the doorway, wearing a loose white sweater that looked almost too large for her dark hair tied into a messy bun after what seemed like another sleepless night. There was sadness in her eyes, but also remarkable gentleness. Neither of them spoke immediately. Sometimes grief recognizes itself without words. She welcomed Owen inside with quiet kindness. Sunlight filled the living room, revealing family photographs covering the walls. Victor smiled from nearly every frame, reminding them both how full of life he had always been. Owen placed the box carefully on the coffee table, feeling as though he had just set down years of memories. As they sorted through each belonging together, stories naturally surfaced. Nora laughed softly while holding the old baseball glove, remembering how Victor insisted he would someday become a professional athlete despite rarely catching the ball correctly. Owen shared stories Mason loved to tell about camping trips and backyard adventures. Tears came unexpectedly, but so did genuine smiles. For the first time since Victor's passing, remembering him felt less painful and more like honoring someone extraordinary. During their conversation, Mason wandered into the house after waiting patiently outside. He carried a small drawing folded carefully inside his backpack. Without saying much, he handed it to Nora. It showed Victor standing beside both of them under a bright blue daytime sky, with large handwritten words across the top saying, "Heroes never really leave." Nora couldn't hold back her tears. That drawing remained on the living room shelf long after Owen and Mason returned home. Days later, Nora surprised them by visiting with homemade cookies and several photo albums she had discovered while cleaning. Mason spent hours laughing at funny childhood pictures of Victor, while Owen watched his son smile more than he had in months. The house that had felt painfully quiet slowly began welcoming laughter again. What started as occasional visits became shared weekends. Nora never tried replacing anyone. She simply appeared whenever someone needed help. She attended Mason's baseball games, brought dinner after Owen worked overtime, and encouraged father and son to keep creating new memories instead of living only inside old ones. Meanwhile, Owen quietly learned that Nora carried wounds of her own. A demanding career had cost her meaningful relationships, and returning home after Victor's death forced her to realize how much precious time she had lost chasing success. She blamed herself for missing birthdays, holidays, and simple family moments that could never be recovered. Their healing happened slowly, almost invisibly. One bright Saturday morning, they volunteered together at a neighborhood charity event organized in Victor's memory. Families gathered to donate clothes, school supplies, and food to struggling parents. Owen watched Mason proudly help younger children choose books while Nora organized volunteers with calm confidence. Looking around at smiling strangers helping one another, Owen realized Victor's kindness had not disappeared. It had simply spread into countless other lives. That evening, as the sun remained high across the peaceful neighborhood, Mason said something that neither adult expected. He admitted that for the first time since losing his mother and Uncle Victor, he no longer felt afraid that everyone he loved would disappear. He believed good people somehow found each other again. Those simple words stayed with Owen all night. Months passed, and the friendship between Owen and Nora quietly deepened into something neither had planned nor rushed. Built on shared loss, honesty, patience, and countless ordinary moments, it felt stronger than anything either of them had experienced before. They understood that love after heartbreak does not erase the past. It honors it while making room for tomorrow. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Kindness Paradise, and share this message with someone who needs a reminder that hope often arrives when we least expect it. Special request, comment below with the words "kindness always finds a way." 1 year after Owen first carried that cardboard box to Victor's family home, the same front porch looked completely different. Children's laughter echoed across the yard as neighbors gathered for another charity fundraiser celebrating Victor's legacy. The photographs inside the house remained exactly where they belonged, reminding everyone that those we lose continue shaping the lives we build afterward. Owen often reflected on how he had believed he was simply returning a friend's belongings that ordinary afternoon. In reality, he had unknowingly carried something far more valuable. Inside that worn cardboard box rested the final pieces of yesterday, making space for tomorrow to enter through an open door. Sometimes life changes not because we search for miracles, but because we find the courage to knock one last time. And when kindness leads the way, even the heaviest grief can become the foundation for a future filled with love, family, healing, and second chances.